So today we are going to discuss and understand about the Chaturvyuhas. Now these Chaturvyuhas are basically explained in the second chapter of Yoga Sutra. So Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, these are the foundational texts in Indian philosophy basically. These sutras provide a systematic approach for understanding of human sufferings. So this sutras gives you what are the causes of the human sufferings, and once you identify the cause of the human sufferings, how you can avoid that, and what all other things can be done to avoid the sufferings. So Maharishi Patanjali gives a clear-cut path towards the liberation. So the principles of Heya, Hetu, Hana and Hanopaya. It is a profound approach to understanding and overcoming the sufferings. So let us first understand what is the meaning, what exactly is the meaning of this Heya, Hetu, Hana and Hanopaya. So Heya refers to the suffering that must be overcome. Heya is basically the suffering which has to be avoided at any cost. Hetu is the cause of the suffering. So what are the different causes of the suffering? And Han is the state of freedom or liberation from the suffering. And Hanopaya is the method or path which basically helps you to achieve the liberation or Hana. So these are the four words and these are the four different meanings of the. So together these concepts serve as a roadmap for spiritual seekers to identify their challenges, understand their root causes and work towards the ultimate liberation. So now when we know what is the cause of suffering, we know what is their suffering and then what is liberation and what are the methods of liberation. So let us first understand the first word which is called Heya. So Maharishi Patanjali says, these are the sufferings which has to be overcome or which has to be avoided at any cost. So what is the definition and nature of the suffering? Heya is derived from the root he, meaning to discard or remove. So the very word Heya is derived from the word he, which means to discard or to remove. So it refers to the suffering or the dukkha that needs to be eliminated to attain the liberation. So what is Heya? This is the pain, this is the suffering which has to be eliminated if you want to achieve the success in liberation. So Maharishi Patanjali emphasizes that suffering is an inherent aspect of human existence. So Maharishi Patanjali, he talks about the Kleshas, and we all know that these Kleshas are present inside everybody's life. And once we talk about the Chaturvyuhas, this gives you a clear-cut pathway that how to identify what are the causes and how to attain the liberation. So Maharishi Patanjali emphasizes that suffering is inherent aspect of human existence due to misalignment between the self, that is Purusha, and the Prakriti or the material world. So when there is a misalignment of the Purusha or the self and the material world, then all these sufferings, they take birth. So he talks about different types of sufferings, different types of dukkha. So he talks mainly about the three types of dukkhas: internal, external and cosmic. So he talks about adhyatmic dukh. So adhyatmic dukh is, or the suffering, it is caused by mental or physical afflictions. So Adhyatmic afflictions are the afflictions which are caused by the mental or physical afflictions, but we have to understand that mental means it is also associated with the senses, it is also associated with the mind and the body. So anything where your mind, your senses, your physical body is involved, and then any types of antarayas or any type of kleshas result in giving this type of problems in the life, like physical ailments or psychological ailments, then it becomes a adhyatmic or internal suffering. Then comes the adibhautik or external sufferings. So these are the sufferings or dukkha arising from the external factors like people or nature. So because we are part of the nature, and nature's impact or effect is always present on us. So the sufferings which arises because of the external factors like nature or the people, they become the external sufferings. Now here also there is involvement of the physical body also, here also there is involvement of the raga dvesh, and here also there is involvement of the senses. So all the dukkhas ultimately they are connected to the manas, mind. Without involvement of the mind, without involvement of your raga and dvesh, sufferings cannot take place. And the last one is adhidevik. So these are the sufferings which are caused by the supernatural or divine forces such as fate. So sometimes you stay in a particular environment, and because of some earthquake or some other natural calamity, you may have to suffer. So that becomes a adhidevik suffering. So Maharishi Patanjali says, Parinam tap samskara dukkhair guna vritti virodhacha dukkham eva sarvam vivekinaha. So what he says, for the discerning person, for the viveki person, all is suffering. Whatever comes in front of him, whatever is happening with him, everything is nothing but suffering. Due to the consequences of change, anxiety, past impressions and conflicts between qualities of nature. We all know that nature is Trigunatmak, and we are also part of that Trigunatmak Prakriti only. So whatever we see today, whether it is change, whether it is anxiety or past impression, it is nothing but result of this change in the nature. So a viveki, a discerning person always understands this, that whatever is there in front of him or whatever is there in the life is nothing but suffering. So this sutra underscores the pervasive nature of suffering, making its removal a critical goal of yoga practice. Because if you are under the influence of these sufferings or the kleshas, and if you don't have any path through which you can come out, then definitely there is no end of these sufferings. But yoga gives you a clear-cut path through which you can end these sufferings. And once you end these sufferings, that means you are liberated. So now we will come to the next part. So next part he talks about the Hetu. So Hetu means cause of the suffering. What is the cause of Heya? So definition of Hetu, Hetu refers to the root causes or reasons of the sufferings. So whatever may be the suffering, whether it is Adhyatmic, Adidevik, Adibhautik, what exactly is the cause of these three types of sufferings in the life of a person? So according to Maharishi Patanjali, the cause of sufferings are deeply rooted in the afflictions or the kleshas. So whether you are having Adidevik, Adhyatmic, Adibhautik, the main cause of all the sufferings are these kleshas or the afflictions that cloud the mind and obstruct the self-realization. So because of avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh and abhinivesh, there is a complete confusion and conflict inside the human mind, and even if the person is very close to the reality, he will not be able to understand the reality. It is something like You are clouding the sun, where the actual information and the knowledge is there definitely, but because of the clouds you don't see the actual form of the sun. So what are these 5 kleshas? So he talks about the 5 kleshas now. So the first thing is avidya. So avidya is also called as ignorance. So what is ignorance? So it is misapprehension of reality. So avidya means you start believing that whatever is permanent to be impermanent and whatever is impermanent to be permanent. Like your physical body, which is impermanent, it is going to perish one day, it is going to finish completely, destroy one day. Thinking this body as a permanent, and the soul, which is permanent in nature, which never dies, taking it as a impermanent. So that is the biggest avidya or the ignorance. And this avidya in the form of seeds, these are present inside us. It can be in the activated, attenuated form or suppressed form, or in a scattered form. In different forms it is present inside us in the form of seeds. And when time comes, when favorable situation comes, these seeds starts ripening, and like that only, once they start ripening, they start giving the fruits also. So next is asmita. Asmita is ego. So identification with the false sense of self. So it is something, once you have decided that something which is permanent is impermanent, and you start identifying yourself that whatever you are telling is right, whatever you are talking about that permanent being impermanent is right, and that becomes, when you identify yourself that yes, you support that, that becomes ego. It is because of your ahankar. Or in other words, you can say that because of ignorance, you start nourishing your ego, and in that ignorance, you believe that whatever you think, whatever you do, whatever you say is only right, other things are wrong. So that also is because of ahankar. Then comes the rag. Now rag is attachment. So once you experience some sensory experience in the life, and once you develop the vasanas or the cravings towards those things, continuously if you start getting the same sensation of experience every time, then it becomes rag. And rag is something, craving or desire for the pleasurable experiences. So, and one more after this is dvesh. So suppose you are not in a position to get your cravings, or if you are not able to get those cravings, so you start getting angry, you start hating the situation. So that is a dvesh. Now abhinivesh is clinging towards life. So basically it is fear of death because of too much of rag, because too much of attachment towards the body, because of too much of detachment also sometimes, or hatred towards somebody. You forget that you are permanent, and you are nothing but the pure self. And because of that, you start fearing death. You start fearing to lose something which is not permanent. So that becomes the abhinivesh. And these are the main causes of all the sufferings of the life. So there is a sutra which talks about this: avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesh, kleshaha. So ignorance, egoism, attachment, aversion, and clinging to life are the main causes of suffering. So this sutra highlights that ignorance is the primary cause, because you are completely encroached and immersed in the sensory experiences of, with the help of raga and dvesh, you are not able to see the reality. And because you have always feared to lose whatever you have because of the attachment and detachments or hatred or anger, you are not able to see the reality, and you start identifying all the things which are wrong as right and all the things which are right as wrong. So that becomes avidya. So avidya is the root cause of all the sufferings. Now, what is the interconnection between the Hetu and the Heya? So understanding the cause of suffering Hetu is the first step towards identifying the suffering itself. If you understand the root cause of any disease, then you understand what exactly is that disease. So without addressing the root, one cannot effectively eliminate the symptoms. So once you know the root cause, then easily you can remove the symptoms also of that disease, and you can heal also those conditions of the body. Now let us talk about what is Hana. So Hana is liberation from the suffering. So we have seen what is the cause of the suffering, avidya, smita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesh. Now we will talk about Han. Han signifies the state of complete freedom from all the types of sufferings, achieved by removing its cause. So once you remove all the causes, all the kleshas, you achieve the Han. It represents the ultimate goal of yoga, which is Kaivalya, where the Purusha exists in its true form, free from the limitations of Prakriti. Because whatever is present in the Prakriti, it is only to experience, it is only present for the experience of the Purusha. So once Purusha transcends everything and it is present in its true form, that is the state of Kaivalya, which is basically Han. So nature of liberation is not simply the absence of suffering, but realization of one's true nature as pure consciousness. So it is not just the end of the suffering. You remove all the root causes, you remove all the seeds, whether they are activated, deactivated, or in any form. You remove all the seeds, you reach into the deeper levels of consciousness, ultimately merging with the object of meditation on which you are trying to become one. So it involves transcending the cycle of birth, death and rebirth by dissolving the influence of kleshas and karmas. So because you are under the influence of the kleshas, so every action you do, it accumulates one karma. And once you achieve the state of Kaivalya, you cannot achieve the Kaivalya unless and until all the karmic debts are cleared. So once you start working on removing the kleshas, automatically you start doing the karmic cleansing, and once all the karmas are burnt, then you reach the state of Kaivalya. So this sutra basically is very, very important to understand that Kaivalya can be achieved only when you have nil or zero karma. So what he says, tad abhavat samyog abhavo hanam tadrisham Kaivalyam. So he says the absence of or abhava of ignorance or avidya leads to the cessation of connection between the seer and the seen, resulting in liberation. So you are liberated from all the sensory perceptions, all the senses. You are liberated from everything what Prakriti is trying to show you. You are established in your own true self. So this sutra emphasizes that the dissolution of ignorance is the central to attaining the liberation. So now we will understand what is Hanopaya, the path of liberation. What are the upayas through which this liberation can be achieved? So Hanopaya refers to the methods or practices that lead to the removal of the sufferings and its causes. So Maharishi Patanjali, he talks about Kriya Yoga also, where he talks about weakening of all the kleshas, but that is only weakening. But to remove that, he talks about Ashtanga Yoga. So he says Maharishi Patanjali outlines an eightfold path as a systematic approach to achieving liberation. So he talks about Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. So what is the interrelationship between the four concepts? So principle of Heya, Hetu, Hanopaya are interconnected and must be understood as a part of holistic framework. So Heya identifies the problem, so suffering that needs to be overcome. Then Hetu is nothing but uncovers the cause. What is the cause of that Heya? And cause of the every Heya is basically the kleshas. So kleshas are afflictions that lead to the sufferings. Then Hana describes the goal. Now that goal for every yogi has to be liberation. For every normal person, it has to be a normal healthy life. So Hana describes the goal, liberation from suffering through self-realization, and Hanopaya is the method through which you can achieve that ultimate path of yoga. So, analyzing Hetu in scholarly context, the cause of student stress may include ignorance of effectively study techniques. If you don't know proper technique to study, then automatically that comes under avidya. Then asmita is over identification with the academic performance. If you are only worried about the academic performance, that is asmita. Now if you are only focused and you are worried about how much you are going to get, that is rag. And suppose you fail, that is your dvesh. And in future, if you are uncertain about your results, that is abhinivesh. So setting Han as the goal is the ultimate aim for every yoga student. So he says student can define their version of liberation as achieving mental clarity, emotional stability, and sense of purpose. So by practicing yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, one can easily achieve the path of liberation. So the framework of Heya, Hetu, Hanopaya in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras offers timeless wisdom for overcoming the suffering and attaining liberation. Now, suppose these Chaturvyuhas are taken in context of health. Yes, the cause of all the problems or sufferings of the life are these Kleshas only. Now, Hana, liberation from these sufferings or the problems of the life, Hanopaya, which is Ashtanga Yoga. So even the therapeutic yoga also can be totally worked on this, and one can attain the complete health, whether it is physical health, mental health, or spiritual health, by practicing Ashtanga Yoga. So this completes the basic understanding of Chaturvyuhas.